Welcome to FNB Money Moves, a podcast where we help you make better financial decisions. I'm Maya Fisher-French.
And I'm Ester Ochse.
And together we're going to solve the world's problems.
Or at least start with our finances.
Okay, fair enough. But starting with our finances, Esther, here's a question for you.
Yes.
If you could climb in a time machine and go back to the age of 25, what would you do differently?
Maya, that's a bit of a broad question. Can we just...
Job,
out the relationships, exes, what are we talking about? Purely finances?
If only we could go there. Yeah. Okay, let's stick to the finances. Okay, What is the big kind of financial things you would have done differently?
I think the big thing for me is not buying that fancy car. It's obviously you just started working, you just finished studying, all of that type of thing. You now go out and you want to buy the big fancy car that, as we know, is depreciating asset, not a good money move at all. So that's, I think, what I would have changed.
Why do you think you bought the fancy car?
Oh, no.
There's a psychological thing behind this.
Absolutely. It's I want to look like I've made it type thing. And I think that, and looking back, one needs to realize that a car is actually only a mode of transport. It needs to get you from A to B. And I love the saying that, debt is the things that you see, wealth is the things that you don't see. So you don't need to have a fancy car. True wealth is actually the things that you can't see.
I just think it's a hard message to land with a 25-year-old who wants to show they've arrived. 100%. Not always easy.
No, it's not easy, but that comes back to, and I think we've spoken about it before, that discipline. And it's difficult. I mean, 25, you've just finished studying, you want to party, you want to go out there, you want to show that you've made it, especially if you've been studying. Just think about that long-term impact. That 4,500 or 5,000 or 6,000 rand a month that you're paying towards a car. Can you halve that? And take the other half and put it towards saving, investing, insurance. And
maybe I should get a podcast on with Westbank, but second-hand cars can still give you, you can sometimes do it differently. Still have the nice car, but do it differently.
I think it's important because, one needs to, again, consider the total cost of mobility. What is the effect of having a balloon payment? What's the effect of a residual? All of those things you need to consider.
Absolutely. We're putting that down as one of our podcast
Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Okay, but let's say now you're 25 years old, you're getting your first job. If you could put your finances together correctly from day one, it would be life-changing, okay? But one of the things that I find people struggle with a lot is actually allocating a budget. So it actually starts with that budget.
It does start with that budget. And I think, to get down to the absolute basics of that it's the needs, the things that you have to pay every month. The accommodation, depending on what your situation, might still be living with your folks, or you might need to rent, or you might need to think about buying a property. So it's the needs in terms of accommodation. Big thing for the 25-year-olds at this moment in time is staying in contact. So data cost is major. A lot of us are working from home now. A lot of the younger guys are working from home now. Can they pay for data? Food is a big thing. And with cost of inflation, you need to make sure
food
that
budget. It's going through the roof. Yeah.
Transport is a cost.
Big cost.
And not only the big fancy car that we hope that no one's going to buy after they've listened to us, but are you using public transport? You need to factor that in. You need to get to work and back. You need to make sure that you've got enough money set aside for transport to last you the month. So it doesn't come 3 days before payday and you can't get to work anymore. So those are the needs, those are the things that you have to pay. Of course, in there, savings, investing and insurance, but we'll touch on that maybe a bit later. And then, of course, once you've paid for all of that, you then get to the nice stuff, the eating out, the treats and all of that. Don't prioritize the eating out and treats and partying, especially at 25, because that does seem like the most important thing. Don't prioritize that over those things.
You and I have both worked with people and trying to help them understand how their budget works. And one of the big mistakes I find people make is that they get the salary on payday and they feel they have the wealth effect, right? I'm rich. And you go out and you have dinner and you do the nice to haves. And halfway through the month, you're putting your groceries on credit card.
Yeah.
I think tracking your spending, and you always talk about this, tracking your spending, even do it for a month or two so that you actually understand what is happening during the month with your money. And you'll say, oh, okay, I see that I spend over that period X amount on groceries. So that the next month you actually put that amount aside up front and say, I know that's what I spend on groceries. I know that's what I'm going to spend on transport. So I think just simply tracking your spending in your first few months, just to gauge and understand how your cash flow is working.
Spot on. And I think what's important about tracking your spending, you're also going to find out where your unconscious spend is coming out. And again, this is, I'm buying a cup of coffee on the way to work, I'm having takeaways, there's load shedding, I don't feel like cooking, all of that type of thing. So you think about it, is if you buy a cup of coffee every day of the week, 20 Rand a cup of coffee, that's 100 Rand a week, that's 400 Rand a month. Again, we're not the fun police. We're not saying to the guys, don't do that. What we're saying is be conscious of it.
Yeah.
And if it's something that you value, so if you really value coffee, make sure, to your point, that it's in your budget. But you're going to see there how much you're spending, and how much you're spending on eating out and treats. Again, is there a way that you can reduce that so that you can make the money actually last the month?
So I have date night. I've had date night. My son was 6 weeks old when we started date night. My son is now 22. And we've been religious about date night. And date night is in our budget because for me, it's actually a necessity to keep our marriage going. And we're still married, so it obviously works. You know what's helping us? The Entertainer.
Awesome.
That's on my FNB app. So that's not a plug necessarily, but we now select and we say, okay, where can we go and eat? Because you get 2 for the price of 1. So there are ways, and I know when we've gone through difficult times financially, we've said, okay, instead of eating out dinner, let's go out for a drink.
Absolutely.
And we find ways, or let's rather go out for breakfast, which is less expensive than dinner. So we work around that. But for me, it's a necessity. I need to work out how I fit it in my budget. And I think you don't want to tell people how to spend their money. You just want to say to people, understand where your money's going and allocate it according to what brings you the most joy.
Or the things that you value.
Or the value, yeah.
So that for us is quite an important concept, is are you spending on the things that are important to you? Are you spending on the things that you value? And this is just a quick exercise that you can do. The first thing that you need to do, and it's a 4-step exercise, is sit down and make a list of everything that you value. And I mean, this is talking to having an early retirement, gardening, travel, all of those things. Make a list of everything that you value. We call it the think, dream, and reflect time. Then the next step, you choose the top 3 things that's important to you. Getting out of debt, retirement, all of that. And then the third step is making sure that you're spending money on those things. And then you just review it on a monthly basis. And if you have got something like date night that's important to you, make sure that it's in the budget. Because it is, as you say, it's benefiting your marriage, making sure that you connect with your husband. So all of those things are important. Yeah.
I'm smiling whilst you're talking about this reflect, because I happened to see, I was invited to some event and there was this beautiful new electric car. I won't mention which brand, because when you hear the which brand it was, you'll know the number that was involved. And there is this temptation to say, it's so beautiful. And I love travel. I'm going to India next month. We were discussing it. I want to go overseas once a year. It is so much more important than a beautiful car. But for some people, the car is more important than the travel. It's not about telling you your values. It's saying understand it. And then understand that within that, I'd rather spend the money on my holidays. So I think a good start.
Just the one tip on a car, and I think you almost stepped into that, is don't go car shopping and then look at your budget. Look at your budget and then go car shopping.
I wasn't shopping. So it's fine. I just happened to see it and it was beautiful. Just beautiful. Okay, so we've done all this. We're analysing. We've tracked our spend for a few months. We're making sure we manage our money. But within your spend, and you said there are necessities that relate to your financial needs.
Yes.
So I want to say, I'm 25. I wish. I was 25 and I'm tight for cash. What financial things should I prioritize? Like, what is my first financial step to take?
The first big financial step, and I know we're going to talk about credit later, is try and make sure that you don't get into credit. Once you're not doing that, I think the biggest thing a person can do is build up an emergency savings. That is, try and target 1 month's worth of income in an emergency fund. You can get hold of it within 7 days or even immediately, because my bad joke on that is I've never seen an emergency wait 32 days. So make sure that you've got an emergency fund. Once you've done that, you can start looking at the longer term stuff. And these are things that you need to consider there. So for me, someone that is 25 years old might want to consider something like disability cover. They might want to start thinking about if they are responsible for extended families' burial costs, which many first generation earners are, have funeral cover. And then once you've got those things in place, start looking at your investing. If your company gives you a pension fund at work, try and contribute as much as you can to that, purely because of that effect of compounding interest over the long run.
So a good trick actually with your company pension fund is, you get your first job, it does feel like I've got all these demands on me. How am I supposed to put money away for retirement? So even if you're selecting, so maybe I'll give you an example, a company may let you contribute up to 15% of your salary, but you start at 10. Commit and actually tell the HR every year, as I get my salary increase it to 11%, 12%. And within a couple of years, you're at 15%, but it's done in a slightly smoother way and give you time to adapt and change. And you're getting salary increases. Hopefully, your skills are growing and you're getting kind of promotions and those sorts of things. So I think you can, but the difference of starting, even if it's that 500 Rand a month at 25, the impact that has on retirement. We're definitely going to also talk about tax-free savings accounts, but I think you can add those in. So where are we at? We're saying definitely have an emergency fund. Make sure you've got something in place that if something happens to you, and we're not talking necessarily life cover, because you may not, it's more dependent related or your income, your future income related.
So the ability to have a paycheck is dependent on one thing, your ability to go to work. You need to ensure that ability. Now, for someone that's 25, and obviously I strongly recommend getting advice around this component, but for someone that's 25 that's got no financial dependence, their ability to earn income is an insurable interest. They need to make sure that they've insured that. As soon as there's a financial dependent, then you need to start thinking about life cover, all of those type of things. But definitely disability cover, and as I said, that funeral cover, burial cover, for if you need to cover extended family.
I must just tell you that I've taken out disability cover for both my sons the minute they started driving, because I thought it'll be me that will be looking after them for the rest of their lives, and it was really, really inexpensive because they're so young. So just something to really consider.
Which you also, which is also a good thing for them in the long run, because you've got them into that insurance quite early on, making sure that they haven't got these massive 10% annual increases underwritten quite at an early age. Better for them in the long run.
Absolutely. So something to consider, and of course your investments. Even if it's a tax-free savings account for 200 Rand a month, 100 Rand a month, a really good start.
Agreed. And even if your company doesn't give you a pension fund, starting off and saving for retirement, I think a TIFSA is exceptionally...
TIFSA, jargon break, is tax-free savings account.
Sorry, bank speak. So tax-free savings account, if you identify that, and I mean my tax-free savings account on my app is actually said retirement tax-free savings account, because I've earmarked that for long-term. That's long-term growth.
It's a really good place to start. Yeah.
Just because if the pawpaw does hit the fan, you can withdraw that money. Please don't, but you can. So a good way to start getting onto that, because retirement annuities, you're locked in until 55, good place to start with retirement.
Absolutely. So Esther, I want to circle back to your starting point around making sure you don't borrow from day one, the expensive car, the clothing stores, the credit cards. And I want to bring in an FNB credit expert next, because I think it's important to understand credit and also how to build up a credit history, because a lot of 25-year-olds say that to me. They say, I don't want to take on credit, but one day I'm going to want to buy a car, a house, I need a credit history. How do I do that? So let's call in MJ Davies. So Esther and I have kind of unpacked those smart moves for 25-year-olds, but we need to really get down to the nitty-gritty when it comes to credit, because of course this is the first time you're starting to work, you are now wanting to buy things, perhaps on credit, a home, a car. So how do you go about doing that? And we are joined by credit expert MJ Davis, who's going to help us a little bit, Esther, to understand what does it take to get a good credit score. But before we do that, I'm going to give you a curveball. I'm going to raise my personal bugbear, which is, why do you offer credit cards so quickly? People get into so much difficulty with credit cards, and the first thing, you finish university, sometimes you're actually still at university, and the first thing the bank says is, hey, have a credit card. Why?
Maya, so there's a few reasons, and most of the banks do it. I think the first one is we want to get our customers experiencing our reward programs as quickly as possible. It is a big competitive edge between the different banks, and generally using your credit card is a way to get more rewards points and get into the ecosystem. So that's one of the big reasons. The second one is it is a great way to build a credit score. So what we always recommend is, even though a bank might be offering you a big limit, you can take any limit you want. So you can start with 1,000 Rand, use it, get the rewards, and then build up a credit record that way. So we want our younger customers to start experiencing credit, so that when the big life events happen, when they want to buy a house, when they want to buy a car, they've got a great credit score, and so they get the best rate and best offer possible. And then thirdly, we generally find that customers who use a credit card with their bank are quite loyal, and so they tend to stick with their bank. So that's one of the products we encourage customers to use, but use responsibly. Don't take the big limit if you don't have the discipline, and banks will give you whatever limit you want.
Well, obviously on the downside, they're not going to give me 300,000 on my first bank.
No, exactly, yeah. So if they offer you 50, you can take 5,000, and you can always increase it when you feel more comfortable to do. The other big tip of the credit card is, it's also about managing it responsibly. So big tip is always to have your debit order on the day you get paid. So there's no temptation to use your money on something else, because as soon as you miss a payment, that impacts your credit record, and then it takes a while for you to make up for that mistake.
And of course, Esther, you pay off in full.
No, 100%. The limit on your credit card is not a target.
No.
So just remember that. That's the first thing. And just to add to what MJ said is, a credit card is a powerful tool to build up your credit score. And there's certain things that you need to buy every month. Groceries, fuel, toiletries, that type of spend. Put that budget towards, or that amount of money towards your credit card spend. Zero the outstanding balance. It's got two things. You're upping your reward level and you're managing your credit appropriately and building a credit score. Very easy.
So we do exactly that, because our credit card is actually a very cost-effective way, because we don't pay the fee, the poor merchant does. We get all these wonderful rewards, so we love it, but we do exactly that. We know how much we're going to spend every month on our day-to-day spend, and we put that's our credit card limit. And then at the end of the month, we settle that in full. But I have to tell you something, MJ and Esther. It affects our credit score, because we do max our credit limit. Because we know that's what we're going to spend every month, right? So we don't go and have a credit limit that's higher than that, because we don't want to use it. And that has actually hurts. Well, not that it's terrible, but it's not like 100% because of that little gap. So that's an interesting one I picked up.
Yeah. So generally, and again, credit scoring, it takes averages. It's as much as we'd love to assess every individual, it's all based on data and averages. So generally, when customers are using their full limits, or they go from 50% of the limits to 100%, it does mean on average there might be something change in their financial profile. But again, it's one factor out of many. If you keep paying your, as you settle it every month, you show a track record. The longer you've had that and done that behavior like that, you'll still have a very good score, even if you use a lot of your limit every month.
Yeah, absolutely. So credit cards, yes, great way to start building up a credit score. Keep the limit low. Always pay off in full. Don't go for the minimum payment. Any other tips?
Yeah, that minimum payment thing is it seems like a good idea, because it's going to help your monthly cash flow. But the problem is you pay that minimum payment, then the next month you spend on it again, you pay the minimum payment, and slowly you start this downward spiral into debt. And that's why we strongly encourage zero the outstanding balance every month on your credit card.
Absolutely. Only way to manage your credit card. But I want to go back to this idea of building a credit record. It's the biggest question young people ask me. And I've started working, I come along to FNB, I open up my bank account. How do I, without taking on credit, maybe not taking the credit card, are there ways that you will look at someone if they're now applying for credit? What kind of behaviors can they start to make themselves look more attractive to you when they want to buy that car?
Yeah, and there's quite a few ways, and in the industry we call those customers credit thin. I don't know where it comes from, and there's credit thin and credit thick, but for a thin customer without much history, there's some basic banking behaviors that has been shown that they'll be a great credit risk when they do need to borrow. So first of all, spending less than you earn. So actually showing that you've got extra cash flow every month, building up savings. If a customer who's been disciplined about building up a savings account, and it doesn't need to be a massive amount. If somebody's earning, say, 15,000 Rand, but managed to save 15,000 Rand over 6 months, that's a great sign for us that customer is disciplined and would be a great credit risk, if they were to, say, want to buy a car or a house in the future. Other important one is if you do have other debit orders, say a cell phone or insurance policy, make sure you have money in your account.
Don't bounce your debit orders.
Don't bounce your debit orders, even if it's not credit.
Yeah.
What banks will say is it's like indicative of your likely behavior when you do take credit out. So make sure you have money in your account. When you budget, make sure your cash flow during the month is enough to cover it. Because even, first of all, you'll probably pay a fee for have a bounced debit order if you go into sort of what the bank's called excess.
Oh, we know. I wrote about this actually. There's a fee up to 200 Rand if you put your account into the red.
And it's really about planning. And look, a lot of the banks will then advocate products. Have a small facility attached to your current account in case you do get your budget wrong. Sometimes you can plan as best you can. Something happens, and if you don't have any emergency savings, which I know Esther is very passionate about. Having a small, overdraft facility. Again, you can choose the smallest amount. You can choose 1,000 Rand or 5,000 Rand. Just use that as a small buffer, and that's probably a safer option than the risk of going into excess and bouncing a debit order. And the nice thing with most of those products is you only pay a fee when you use it, and that fee is a lot less than the typical excess fee that a bank will charge you.
Yeah. Okay. We have to admit that the Fisher family went and had that incident 2 months ago. That's how I knew how the fee was.
Yeah. No, look, I've got that exact tool, and I look at it. I think I've maybe used it once or twice. Gone into my sort of overdraft facility, and it's when something happened a few days before payday, and I was like, it's fine, I've got this cover, and then I'll just settle it when my salary does come in. I didn't want to, tap into my savings or anything like that. So it does happen.
So it is about managing your money properly. So you don't even have to have necessarily credit. You just need to show that you actually understand budgeting, maybe even use a tracking or spend on the app.
Track your spend, smart budget. I mean, those tools are available to our clients as well. And it is really, really vital that you can see where your money's going, where your biggest expenditures are, where your discretionary spend is, that you can maybe reduce that, pay off some debt, or alternatively save for an emergency.
And I want to ask you about what you consider to be a good credit score. So I was actually speaking to a young professional, I think she's an actuary. I couldn't believe the rate she got on her car finance. It was below prime, and that's not what you see every day. And I realized that clearly the banks look at certain people in certain ways, and even a young person who probably doesn't have much of a credit history was able to get a car at below prime. So what do you look for as a bank to lend to people?
Most all the banks have what we call the graduate or young professional packages, and it's generally offered to young people starting work, even in their last year of studies, as they begin to sort of start contemplating whether it's articles or their first job. They're starting to sort of set their financial situation up. What we've seen again over time is that young people who've done the hard yards and had the discipline to get through some tough degrees, a tough 4-year or 3-year degree, honors degrees, they've shown that discipline. So we want to back them and actually offer them products on the basis that they're likely to be very disciplined in how they repay us and manage their financial affairs. So an actuary is a great example. That's a tough degree to get through. A lot of discip to get through that.
Also
lot of
good
sacrifice.
Earning potential. I mean, they're not likely to be out of a job very easily.
No, exactly. So generally, So your degree and I guess the complexity of it can correlate with earnings. So we'll look through to what is that young person going to be like in 10 years time or 20 years time, and we'd like to recognize their future potential and offer them a rate that reflects their future credit risk based on their sort of recent past.
I learned something new now. I pity I'm not young and professional. Well, actually, I don't borrow money anymore, so I'm probably not the kind of people you want anyway as clients.
And it's not. Look, obviously there's some degrees of high earning potentials, but what we've also seen is just graduates in general. So it doesn't have to be, sort of the very high earning potential degrees. It's that discipline of getting through a 3 or 4 year degree.
And not partying too much.
Not partying too much, because that's what you need when you start working and having to manage your budget and stuff like that. So we have seen those offerings expand over time, because we just value the discipline and that young people show in getting through degrees.
So MJ, one of the things I know many young people, when they start working, they want to buy a home. And what credit score do you need? What is the number that the bank looks at in order to get obviously a reasonable, maybe like a below prime interest rate?
I think every bank uses their own score, so it's difficult. Like in the US, everybody knows their credit score and everybody uses the same score. I think in South Africa, we've all done our own thing, and generally, so there's not a one number that will guarantee you, and everybody uses their own thing. But I think the principles are the same, whether across all the banks offering home loans. So I think some of the principles we spoke about earlier, never missing, trying to avoid missing any credit installment or debit order. Any missed debit order put a black mark against you for a while. So that's probably the key. The second one is also not taking too much credit too quickly. For a home loan, it's a 20-year like agreement we're taking with a customer, and so if the banks see a young person who's taken out a car, a credit card, an overdraft, a personal loan in the last 6 months without actually demonstrating,
it's like, I'm just going to max it all out.
But that's sort of shorter term stuff, and we're saying, well, we're going to need a track record. If that was 2 or 3 years ago and you've proven yourself to be able to handle that, and you've still got a lot of affordability, and you can withstand interest rate increases. I think that's the other important piece we haven't really spent much time on. A credit score is one thing. If you can't afford it and you can't show that you've got that excess cash flow to afford that installment and to absorb, I don't know, 3-4% interest rate increases.
Which is what we've
that's
seen.
as important.
So many people use that 7% prime rate to take on debt and are now really, really hurting.
Yeah. And generally, banks will model that, and they'll say, we know in 2020 interest rates were at historical lows. So all the home loan teams would have said, we have to assume that this is going to go up eventually. But it's also, the customer, the consumer is also responsible for doing that own calculation in their head and not overextending themselves. And then, not taking additional credit after the home loan, which frees up that amount that
the buffer that they did have is now gone to buying the car, Esther.
So listen, I mean, absolutely in favour of house purchase. It's the first proper wealth creation tool you're going to buy at 25. But, have a look at your credit status. Either download it from one of the central databases, look at the app, see if it's there, and make sure.
Because FNB gives you your credit score
credit
on
status on app. So have a look at that as well. And then when you are looking at this thing about buying a house, make sure that you've got sufficient money to cover the transfer duties, the attorney's fees, all of that type of thing. Try not to take out lending for that, because that's going to affect your credit score in the long run. And then, of course, keep a little bit aside for unexpected expenses on a new home.
Especially if you're buying an existing house and discover the roof has a problem.
Yes, I literally replaced my whole roof last year. So my wife's new bathroom might be a 5-year plan, because that happens. And you can have the best agent, you can do all the inspections. A Cape Town winter can teach you lots of expensive lessons.
Well, great. Thank you so much, MJ, for joining us and giving us a little bit of an idea of how the bank looks at your credit. Because, of course, at the end of the day, no matter how much you don't ever want to borrow money, somewhere along the line, you're going to need to borrow money for housing, for acquisition of assets, maybe starting your own business. So really important to start off from day one with the right approach to your credit score. You've been listening to FNB Money Moves in partnership with Maya on Money, where we help you to make better financial decisions. So make sure you tune in to our next podcast.